Hey guys, Parfax here, and today I wanted to bring you a video on the loot coming in the next patch, specifically the 2 raids. Now there is sort of a 3rd raid, which I haven't been able to do yet, but I wanted to bring you guys a video. This is going to be, I'm not going to lie, a little bit of a ranty video. Now, I want to go over both things, and there's some good stuff and some bad stuff. So what we're going to do here is we are at the hatchery, as you can see on our map. We're going to go here. We're going to look at the raid loot here. And then we're going to go to the new raid, the Big Daddy, the Worm right here, the Trial of the Devourer. I have fought that fight, and let's get to it because there's some good stuff here and some bad stuff. We are going to start, unfortunately, a little bit negative here with the hatchery. Now, it's not actually going to let us look at it. So let's go look. Here we go. So what I want to look here is at the specific gear that drops from here. So what we're going to do here is the hatchery. You can see here we have 7 bonus runs, and then you have basic rewards. What I believe this means is once you complete the trial here 7 times for, I believe, the day or the week, and then you can not get these rewards. You just get like the basic rewards, which is kind of just fine. So let's look at the rewards. So we have, of course, this glyphs, which are very good. I'm glad they decided to drop here. You get a little bit of umbral shards, which is good. But let's look at the gear. We have invigorated, refreshing, shirking, fortification, refreshing, invigorated, fortification. You can kind of see here we have refreshing, empowering, breaker, invigorated, and that's it. Now, if you want to get these for transmog, that is perfectly fine. So one of my biggest problems with New World is they want to continue giving us gear, but they make it absolutely garbage. This is worse than stuff. I mean, I guess this is technically better than the gear that's up here, like the invigorated, refreshing, shirking, fortification. This is just really bad. There's almost no scenario in the game where I'm ever going to want to put this on, which is very unfortunate because we have a new trial board out there. You know, it's a new trial for the season. It's not particularly a hard trial, but I would much prefer that they gave us maybe Beast Ward gear for the new dungeon. Maybe, you know, Beast Ward gear, maybe put some of the chitin padded in there because we have the poison from the new trial, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But it's just really bad. They are, I guess, spending time developing pieces of gear. Now, not every piece of gear has to be completely new and amazing. Not every piece of gear has to be, you know, a best in slot. But eventually you have to start giving players gears they want. You can get into New World. You can start playing the game and you can find gear that is better than this within the first like 15 minutes of playing. You can go spend 1K, 2K, I mean, it might be a 4K on the trading post and get gear that is better than this. So I don't understand why they want to continuously give us bad gear. Like at face value, I'm like, there's 2 possibly good perks there, with invigorated being the, you know, who knows. But for PvE, you want ward because of you. We don't want to run ward. We don't want to have to run resilient as players. You make us want to run that stuff. You make us have to run that stuff. I don't want to run it. I would much prefer run a piece of gear like this than have to run ward in resilient. But no, AGS, you make us run that. And then when you make us run that, you put in content in the game that doesn't give us that. So it doesn't make any sense. You could have put luck here instead of invigorated, and that would have been 10 times better than putting invigorated. Or you could have substituted realistically any of these, and it would have been better than if you just would have put either luck, a ward, or resilient. It doesn't have to be completely BIS. It doesn't have to be completely insane, but give us pieces of gear that actually make a lick of sense. They want to continue giving us more expeditions with more gear and blah, 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 but you give us crap. And I'm not trying to be super abrasive, but we want you to give us content that we want to run. Yes, I will run this because it's kind of fun. Yes, I'll do that a couple times, But if you don't make it rewarding, we're not gonna do it. That is my biggest problem. You put out these new expeditions and all this stuff, and they're cool. The new expedition, the one that just came out, I absolutely love it. Like, when it comes to the fun factor, it is probably my favorite expedition in the game. But you have to make it rewarding. Now, what I think they could do instead of going to absolutely bad gear, like, I guess this one's not absolutely terrible. Like, you could fit one of these pieces of gear if you're doing PvP. If you're doing PvE, I guess you could, you know, have this as just an overall set where you run around and you don't ever want to swap to ward. Even though AGS, you really want us to run ward. I mean, you really want us to run ward. You said, we want you to have 15 different sets just for PvE and 15 different sets just for PvP. And then we want to have 15 different sets just for gathering and 15 different sets just for crafting. So you want us to have all that stuff, and then you give us this. Why not put a piece of gathering gear here? Maybe crafting gear here. You know, that'd be better than this random stuff. What I thought you would do is just give maybe some Beast Ward gear. Even if it was 2 perk Beast Ward, you didn't have to put refreshing on it. You could have put Beast Ward, you know, you could have put Beast Ward, Freedom, Luck. You could have put Beast Ward, you know, whatever, physical version. You could have done all that. You could have made the gear really not that good, but help you towards the new expedition or help you towards something. This doesn't help you towards anything. This is not a stepping stone. This isn't a, you know, anything. Like, we're not going to rant too much longer because they did do some things good, and I'm not going to completely bash them, but they're spending a lot of time developing these sets and putting time and effort into these things, but they're making it so we don't want to run them. You know what I would do if I got this piece of gear? I'd put it in my transmog stash. That's what I do with it. I put it in the transmog stash, and if I don't have transmog, I delete it. It's not good. Like, please let us give us some stuff. Like, that's all we're asking for. We want to play your content. We want to run it. We want to enjoy it, but give us a reason to. But all right, so that is the hatchery. It's not too bad. Apparently it's pretty easy. I've only done it once. So we're going to go ahead and go over to the new expedition because we got some good stuff and some bad. All right, let's get over. All right, so we are here at the Sandworm Trial, the trial of the Devourer. And I do want to preface this with saying I attempted it twice. The first time, nobody had any idea. The second time was immediately after, and we got him to about 2%. So I'm going to go up here. We're going to talk about the loot, and then I'm going to separate the loot, and I'm going to start talking more about the trial. We're not going to put any of the clips in there. We will let you guys be a little bit surprised. So we'll make sure we cut that off. So if you guys don't want to hear anything about the trial and what goes on in there, we will definitely have a spot for that, so you guys don't have to worry about it. But that way you would be surprised if you want to. But let's talk a little bit about the loot. Now, I will say that they did do one thing in here that I actually have been asking for. So I want to preface this by saying, with the Trial of the Devourer, the developer said this, they want this to be the hardest content in the game. I will at the very end talk about the difficulty, but we're going to go off of the assumption this is going to be the most difficult trial in the game, or most difficult content in the game. So that's what we are going to preface this by, and then we will talk about it at the end if you want to hear about it. So let's go ahead and look at the reward. So it's separated by daily, weekly, and completion. So what this means is, it seems just like the hatchery. You will be able to get one little coffer a day. You'll be able to get one coffer a week. And then you'll be able to get these every time you do it. So if you do 2 in a day, then on the second one, you'll just get this. Now, from everything that I can see here, I looked, they're exactly the same, the daily and the weekly, which is a little bit odd. But let's go ahead and look into it. Well, I guess other than the Timeless Breast Shard, which is odd, instead of the Minor Heart Rune Devourer. So you can only get 1 a week, which is interesting. So if you want to get all 3, it's going to take you 3 weeks. But we get some form of umbral shards, which is good. We get a gypsum orb, which is good, which is just, you know, it is what it is. We have the sandworm materia, and then we have the weird ass timeless breastplate shard, which I don't understand why that's there, but cool. So let's look at the gear. So we have a full set for each different types. We have medium armor of Beastward Refreshing Elemental Version. We have a full set of light Beastward Refreshing Elemental Version. And then we have a full set of heavy. Wait, that's light. That's heavy. And there's medium. So we have a full set of everything of Elemental Version Refreshing Beastward, which is purple, which actually irritates the crap out of me. Like if it's over 600, you can see here everything is 610. It definitely shouldn't be purple. So let's talk a little bit about this. This is something you would expect to sort of come out of the dungeon, except for they want this to be the hardest content in the game where you have to have this gear to get in and do it. So I think it's very odd and not very smart to actually put this gear here. This gear definitely should be in the, you know, one of the earlier trials, or maybe in the hatchery. And maybe they are. The hatchery I haven't done yet. Well, or not the hatchery, but there's like a salt. Hold on, let's see what it's called. It was right. Oh, it was right up here. Now it's up here. The Siege of the Sulfur. Maybe they have some in there. I did notice that some of the seasonal rewards has Beast Bane on it. So that is pretty good if you're looking for a little bit of the Beast Bane gear. But I think it's very odd that we're putting in here. But it's purple, so I'm not going to rip them too hard. But I would much prefer different armor. So having said that, they do have some different armor. So we have some heavy gear here. We're shirking for Elemental Version Refreshing. And they go down the list there. And then they have light armor and then the medium armor. So you get two different sets of armor here, which one is Elemental Version Shirking Fortification Refreshing. And then you have the Beastward Refreshing Elemental Version. What I would much prefer they do here, considering they want this to be the hardest content in the game, is give you gear here that you really want to strive for. Now, they did do some of this pretty good when it comes to the weapons, and it could be quite game-changing on a few different ones, but some weapons got shafted. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I would much prefer them give you something a little bit new. Maybe give you like Beastward Refreshing. Maybe give you something like, you know, Beastward Elemental Aversion. You know, give you something in here that is completely different, something they can't roll. That is one thing I said that I wanted them to do for this trial that'll make it good, is they give you some pieces of gear that you can't craft. And I know the crafters are going to hate that, but New World is going to a game where everybody has to craft. So if everybody has to craft, it's okay, in my opinion, to give you gear that is better than crafted, that is outside of the crafting scene. Now, it doesn't have to be like, you know, I don't know, if you're playing Greatsword, if it had like Trench Strikes. Like, it doesn't have to have that level of, you know, attunement. It doesn't have to have that level of bis. But give us something that's a little bit build defining. The Melting Point, which is a spear that had Thwarting Strikes, Vicious, like keenly empowered or something like that. And I was like, wow, I absolutely love this. It was originally, you know, a build where you had to run 300 strength with it. So it was a pretty cool one. So if you were running Great Axe Spear, it would have been a fantastic one for that. It was a little bit build defining, wasn't super overpowered, but in certain circumstances, it could be absolutely insane. And that's all I'm asking for here. It doesn't have to be crazy OP, but I would much prefer them give you something that you're going to use, because in their words, they want you to have basically BIS gear to do this trial. So why, if we need BIS gear to do this trial, do you give us essentially BIS gear to do once you complete the trial? If they gave you rewards as you went through the trial, and you could possibly go in there, you know, for every certain amount of time you're in here, you'll get like a little small cache, and this cache can have these Beastward pieces of gear, and I think that'd be perfectly fine and be perfectly reasonable. But you do have to complete it to actually get it done. So that's all I'm going to say about the armor, because I do want to get to the weapons, because some of them are actually pretty cool, but some of them aren't. So we have the sword here, which is Vicious, Enchanted, Empowering Leaping Strikes. If you want to look at it. Now, sword is a little bit of a different case, because you can run a shield, so you can actually get Vicious and Enchanted, But this is actually pretty cool. I love what they did here. We have Vicious, Enchanted, which cannot go on the same piece of gear. Then we have Empowering Leaping Strike. This sword is actually pretty good. It'll be used and people will love to get it. So it actually opens up a lot more builds and I absolutely love it. I'm completely okay with it. This is the type of gear that I wanted them to actually come out with, because if you can craft it, there's still real no reason to get it unless it's absolute abyss. So I'm pretty excited. And then we have Satial Gravwell, Trench Strikes, and Enchanted. Again, pretty interesting. I really wish it would have been anything other than Trench Strikes, but maybe if you want to go with some 300 strength build for the Great Axe, this could be really cool. Not to mention the actual transmogs on here are pretty cool. So again, you cannot get Enchanted and Trench Strikes, which is, I think it's a pretty cool Great Axe. I don't think it's overly powerful. I think the sword is definitely better, but I think it's really cool and I'm not going to complain that much. But now let's get to some of the weapons, which I guess New World just says they don't care about anymore, or they don't want to give them anything fun anymore. So we have the Musket, which is Refreshing Move, Crippling Powder Burn, and Enchanted. You can roll this musket. There's nothing special about it. And there's like might be this exact weapon in the game already. I think the one comes from Barnacles, maybe. Oh no, that one is, I think, Refreshing Move, Enchanted, and Shooter Stance. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why we went from two really cool items. Even this one's a little bit more build defining. This could be something that, you know, Gravwell kind of sucks on it, not gonna lie, but you could still see a case where somebody might want to run this sword. Very cool. But the musket, actually just pretty bad. And again, we have the Blunderbus, which absolutely gets shafted in every legendary in the game. New World just says, we do not want you to have a good legendary. They said, nope, if you are a Blunderbus player, we do not like you. We want you to suffer and have to craft your weapon. We don't want to give you anything that is remotely reasonable. And they continue with that trend here with a Enchanted Leeching Shrapnel Blast and Refreshing Move. Honestly, you're not going to run this. You could get a 2-perker for 2k on the trading post that is better than this in every situation. So interesting, but unfortunate. And again, we have another really bad weapon with bow. So they went with the 3 ranged weapons here. They gave us pretty crap, again, with Refreshing Move, which pretty much nobody uses Refreshing Move on a DPS weapon. Great Axe used to have a case, but they don't use it anymore. We have Refreshing Move, Enchanted, Penetrating Rapid Shot, so not good. You're never going to use this. So then we go to more melee weapons, and again, we have the Refreshing Move. I guess because you can throw hatchets, they said we don't want you to do that, so they get Enchanted, Refreshing Move, Refreshing Torrent, which is going to be very meh. Then we have our Fire Staff with Vicious, Enchanted, Empowering Meteor Shower. Again, I like it. Is this going to be Biss? No, but it's a pretty cool staff because you cannot have Vicious and Enchanted together. We have Empowering Meteor Shower. I can see a case for people to want to run this, or if you don't have any weapons, to get on here, run it, and be really cool. The staff does want to crit. So you have Vicious, which is cool. Enchanted, because you are going to be basic attacking a decent amount. And Empowering Meteor Shower. If this would have been something maybe a little bit different, this could have been really, really good. But I'm not going to complain. I absolutely love this staff, and I think it's really cool. So we have the Life Staff, and we have Blessed, Refreshing Move, Keen Beacon. When it comes to Life Staff, New World is like, you know what? We know what's Biss. We're going to give it to you. When it comes to literally every other weapon in the game, they're like, no, we hate you. We're not going to give it to you. But having said that, I think there's actually a named weapon in the game with this literal exact role. So pretty interesting. Now, for the trial, this is going to be really good because, you know, giving people crit is pretty cool if you use Beacon. But yeah, it's just, I think this is already in the game, so I don't know why it's here. And then we have Sundering Shockwave, Trenches Strikes, Enchanted. I think this is actually really cool. You want to play a play style where you get the big shockwave off and then you fully charged heavy them. This is going to be actually pretty insane. This could be Biss for your build. So I'm excited to see it. I love having weapons that have 2 perks you can't roll together, and makes it a little bit more build defining. It's not OP in every situation, but if you want to do like a heavy attack build, this is going to be pretty good. Speaking of heavy attack builds, we have the Greatsword, Trench Strikes, Enchanted, Leeching Crosscut. This is going to be the PvEers and maybe some PvPers wet dream. This is going to be really good. There used to be a build that people were using leeching crosscut, leeching greatsword. That's kind of like the PvE tanking, like tanky weapon. You weren't tanking, but you were like very tanky with it. And this weapon's absolutely pretty crazy because Trenches Strikes plus Enchanted are insane. If you're doing a heavy attack greatsword build with crosscut, this weapon is pretty crazy. Now, is it best? Maybe not, but it's really, really good. And I think I'm okay with them having this in the dungeon. And then we go to the rapier. We have Enchanted Rogue King Tondo, which is interesting. That's all I'm going to say about that. Then we have Amphibious Skewer Rogue Enchanted. So pretty cool here. This is pretty interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember. Does Rogue and Enchanted, can you roll those together? I think you can actually roll those two together. Let me know in the comment section down below if you can roll these two together. If you can't roll them together, then these are pretty cool. If you can roll them together, they're very meh. And then we have a Refreshing Evasion Enchanted Pylon Burst. I'm not going to complain about this one because they gave us a Refreshing Evasion one. I'd much prefer this to be Refreshing versus Refreshing Evasion, but still a pretty cool piece. I do like it when they give us a form of refreshing on the items, or at least the weapons. We have a Keen Nullified Oblivion Enchanted. If that would have been instead of Enchanted, Refreshing move, this would be really good. But honestly, this is an okay weapon. I would have much preferred, again, they just gave us two perks that couldn't go together, or maybe gave us a refreshing, maybe like Keen Refreshing Nullifying Oblivion. I would have much preferred that over this. This is something you can craft. It's not expensive on the marketplace, so pretty disappointing. Now we get to some of the interesting stuff. So we have the 3 shields and the 3 pieces of jewelry. We'll look at the ring, which is Leeching Hardy Keen Awareness. Nothing special there. And then we have the earring, which is Refreshing Toast, Nimble, Duplicating Toast. Nothing special here. You're not really going to want to run these, so yeah. But let's look at the rest of the stuff. So let's look at the Kite Shield, which is Refreshing Ward, Fortifying Shield Rush, and Enchanted. You might be thinking to yourself, Parfax, why would you even care to show this? This is just as bad as the ring and earring. But it has a gem socket. These are now legendary shields that has a gem socket. Now, if you guys want to see me test out in the PTR here, if you can craft legendary shields and they get a gem socket, I will definitely do that because that could be a complete game changer. Now, this shield particularly isn't very good, but with that gem socket, it could be pretty crazy. Now, does that mean we get an extra rune glass gem? What does that mean? We will have to see, but it's very interesting nonetheless. Now, let's go to the tower shield here. We'll get to the round shield here in a second. We have Accelerated Resolve, Sure-Footing, Sturdy. Unfortunately, this shield is pretty bad. Accelerated Resolve, Sure-Footing are not very good, but that gem socket could be pretty interesting. So I'm a little bit disappointed that this shield is that bad, but the gem socket is pretty crazy. Now, let's go to the round shield. The round shield, Strength, Fortifying Shield Rush, Vicious Enchanted. This is really good. Now, unfortunately, it does not pair at all well with the weapon that comes from in here, the sword, but this does open up to some pretty crazy builds. So you can get like some pretty insane combinations because you can now have 3 of those perks in that perk pool. So if you don't know, Vicious Enchanted, what else comes with them? Rogue is sort of in that perk pool, and then you have like Trenchant Strikes, Trenchant Crits, Thwarting Strikes. You can now have a build with Vicious Enchanted and Thwarting Strikes with attunement. You could have something like Keenly Empowered, Attunement, Thwarting Strike, Sword, and this is freaking insane. That's Vicious Enchanted and Thwarting Strikes all in the same weapon is pretty crazy. Plus a gem socket. So we'll see what happens if this gem socket stays, but this could be pretty insane. Now, speaking of pretty insane, let's look at the necklace. So we have Health Divine Elemental Aversion. So they gave us a piece of gear with Elemental Aversion on it, which I think is actually pretty fun, and I absolutely love it. Now, you are giving him something like Stamina Recovery, a Refreshing here, but an extra piece of Elemental Aversion is actually pretty sick. This could be something, you don't have a protection, so it's not particularly great when it comes to mutations, but it's really good. I like this for PvP. I can definitely see some people, if you don't need stamina recovery, go into this type of amulet, and I am completely fine with it. Overall, when it comes to the loot in this dungeon, when it comes to the armor, I'm extremely disappointed. I wish they would have given us something a little bit better to strive for when it comes to the armor department. Is this gear bad by any means? No, but they want this to be the hardest content in the game. Why give you the gear, the exact gear that you should have when you do the content? Now, when it comes to the weapons, all the weapons that have stuff like this, where it has Vicious Enchanted on, I absolutely love. Even if it's not completely Abyss, like I believe this Great Axe is, at least this gives us something interesting to look forward to and to try out. But when you get to stuff like the Musket, the Blunderbus, the bow, and then possibly the Rogue Enchanted stuff, I can't remember if I think Rogue Enchanted can roll together. But actually they might not be able to. But the stuff that can roll together, I don't like it. I think this is, why are you just basically screwing these weapons right here when you're giving, including this weapon right here, when you're giving all the other weapons something really cool to play with? If you're going to give everybody, if you're going to give some new toys, especially in the hardest, top end content, give everybody new toys. It's kind of my only complaint here. So it's very much a mixed bag when it comes to the rewards. I don't know how much Umbral Shards you get, because like I said, we got down to like 2%. And then if you go down here, it's just the ward gear on the completion. So we do have a new hardened gem. I tested it out. It doesn't seem very good. It could be, it has some, cases maybe inside war groups or big AoE points, but it's just okay. So that is where we're going to stop talking about the rewards you get. And if you don't want to hear any spoilers or my thoughts on the trial itself, go ahead and click off the video right now, because I probably will put in some clips here of the trial. So for those of you guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, like always, and I hope to see you on the next one. All right, so now let's talk about the trial. We're not going to go too incredibly in depth, but we are going to have, as you see here, a few clips of the trial. So my thoughts on the trial so far are as followed. It's way too freaking easy. This trial is probably easier. It's probably easier to pug this than an M10 Laz, which is pretty crazy, because they said it was supposed to be really hard and there was only going to be 100 people to complete it. Now, like I said, I only did get it down to like 2%. So there is a chance that there is another phase of this boss. And if that is the case, I definitely could be wrong here. So the mechanics are extremely easy. There's only like 1 or 2 things in there that are going to one-shot you, and most of them can I'm sure all of them you can actually see. The mechanics are super easy and quick to pick up. His mechanics are not mechanic heavy at all. It's basically like avoid big green circle, don't get hit by his head swipe, which I died to, and then he does some things where you need to go on the bottom platform on like the sand, and then you have to go back up onto the ramparts in some fights. So pretty easy. Like I said, there's a chance that there's a second phase to it. We didn't get there. Nobody had good gear at all. No one had their trophies up. No one had Bane weapons. No one had ward. I shouldn't say no one had chit and padding, as people did. Chit and padding, not really needed. I would bring just a potion or two. Which I'm glad. I would rather bring a couple potions than bring a bunch of chit and padding. So definitely not needed, at least right now. But it was super, super easy. Now, when it comes to the experience, I was actually extremely disappointed. The worm himself looks like something that came out in 2005. The graphics of him are not very good. The sound is pretty good. Kind of sounds like a Predator-esque fight. But if you look where the body comes out of the ground, it just, you don't see anything. When he leaps out of the ground, he doesn't attack where he leaps out of the ground. There's no, like, the sand doesn't shift. It's basically like they just took a model and, well, no, exactly what they did is they took a model, which honestly isn't particularly that good, and they made it just clip in and out of everything. Now, maybe we'll get some more animation, stuff like that as we go on, and maybe, towards the end of the PTR, we actually get the animation for it, but it really, really doesn't fit New World. It just looks so bad comparatively that I think they should definitely do some stuff to it, because at least make the sand, you know, come around his skin, and he just clips in and out of everything. I mean, he clips through absolutely everything in there, which is fine. They do have a really cool viewing area. When you die, you sit up on top, which is pretty cool. So it, you know, gives you kind of a nice viewing experience. I think the railing's too high, so you can't really see that well. I'd prefer them put the railing down a little bit, just have like an invisible barrier where you can't jump over. I know aesthetically it's not probably the best, but I would much prefer to be able to watch the fight. But it was super easy. You don't need ward gear at all. We almost beat it with a random pug group with absolutely no gear, no trophies, we don't even have coatings. So hopefully there's a second phase to it, and we will see if there is. But honestly, pretty underwhelming in the fight via the visuals or the fight itself. So we will see what goes on. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe like always, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.